We will narrow the scope of the conversation for the purpose of this session from the viewpoint of facing fear. For indeed, this is the first stop in being able to manage appropriately the thoughts and resulting energies that are a consequence of your experiences here. And so most often, the step, as it were, of facing your fear or fears is a very critical component in the management, in the effective management of that energy that your thoughts are producing. And so we'll talk about now the importance of facing your fears. And what is that? I have said in the past that if one is not willing to face their fears, then the fear itself will grow in its size and continue to enlarge in its proportion. There have been many different techniques at this early stage of facing fear that people have utilized, but the most effective method of facing fear is first to acknowledge its existence. Many, when they encounter a thought that creates the emotion of fear, and hate also is an energy that resonates from fear. Worry, doubt, anxiety, depression, these are all energies that are harmonious and reflect the fearful nature of your beliefs. And so the first critical step is to understand that through your desires, you have manifested events in your realities that reflect not only your fears, but also your opportunity to eventually overcome those fears. And so the first step in recognizing that you are encountering the emotion of fear through one of the many words I have just provided is to first acknowledge that you are afraid. Because when you acknowledge the thought processes, the beliefs that are occurring in your reality, your subconscious, your inner being, your soul, then has an opportunity to address it. Commonly, however, what occurs is the emotion itself of fear, hate, worry, doubt, insecurity is so unpleasant to experience that most repress the emotion by any means necessary. And they will do that in various different functions. They will overlay the emotion and pivot away from it without proper examination with positive thoughts. Do not misunderstand my position on positive thoughts, for they are very beneficial and useful to you in your creating, in the creative expression of the reality that you wish to create. Howsoever, used in this fashion to repress the fear that has arisen will only create a duality where the positive thoughts are being focused upon, but the fear itself that was repressed is continuing to grow. And so what have we learned already about anything that expands within your limiting beliefs, within your energies, within your reality? That which grows gets bigger and will manifest in your reality continually until you face the fear, or you are willing to engage the first step of facing it and acknowledging its presence. For that is indeed the first step to any level of examination, is the acknowledgement of a thought, of a belief, whether in your terms you call it a good or bad one. And so we begin with the first step. I am afraid. And from that, the subconscious has an opportunity then to begin the process of assistance to you, although it is you. So the first step then becomes very important, not to shy away from the way it makes you feel when you are experiencing thoughts that produce fear in you. And so now you have faced it and you have acknowledged that you are afraid of it. And this importance of this very first step cannot be overstressed. The other ways that people repress the identification of fear itself within their experience is to talk it away from them in some way that masks it for what it really is, which is the reflection of your limiting beliefs. It is one of your fears. And they will talk it away by saying things like, they will ascribe behaviors of the persons or events that triggered the fear. And this is commonly happening right now with the events that are going on in your country, in your world, is it not? Where there are responses to behaviors and events that are triggering fears that are within you that have yet to be examined, confronted, and overcome. And so one of the ways that fear is commonly repressed is you begin to instead form opinions about the behaviors of people and events that triggered those feelings within you. Another way that the fears are not faced is you will often do an examination period that leaps over the acknowledgement of the fear. So instead of first saying, right now I am experiencing fear from this situation that has arisen in my life. Instead, what happens, the emotion, the thoughts and the consequenting emotions are triggered. And then the individual, the personality, wants to leapfrog over the facing of the fear into thoughts that will self-soothe. They will attempt to move away from the emotion that is deemed unpleasant in any way possible, not understanding that the first and foremost, most important step is to consciously, because that is the path to the evolution and expansion that you are seeking. You are seeking to become what Abraham calls a deliberate creator. Therefore, you must have deliberate and conscious acknowledgments of every step along your way. This is one of such steps where you can say, without judgment of yourself or the event or the person who triggered the event within you, to say, I am afraid. And I am afraid of this condition. I am afraid of this situation. I am afraid what this person represents. This is integrally necessary for your subconscious to have the ability to then assist you with the next natural steps, which are the thoughts and communications that it has of your fears, of the limiting beliefs, of your ability to understand where they came from, you see. And that is what happens when you acknowledge consciously in a communication, is what I have always recommended. Communicate. There must be someone that you can communicate this acknowledgement to. But if not, if you have no one that you feel that you can communicate with, which is often not the case, because it is only your belief systems that simply tell you that is so. But if you feel that there is no one that you can communicate this first necessary step with, in an academic and intellectual approach, not an emotional approach, but an academic one that will intellectually allow you to consciously utilize this step and understand that this is necessary for your process of eventually overcoming fear. If you have no one that you feel comfortable with to have such a communication with, then you should write it down so that you can look at it. This is also an acceptable way for you to face your fear or fears, depending on how many are being triggered that were lying latent within the construct of your limiting beliefs. And so your subconscious then has an opportunity to address the fears that you now must deal with in its proper context, not focusing greatly on the origin, but an examination process that will at least give you the psychological understanding of the person or persons that gave you those limiting beliefs. From that point, the subconscious then has an opportunity to give guidance and clarity on how to appropriately and effectively think now about those fears. So this is a conscious evolution of thought, a changing of thoughts about your fears, which of course are housed in the frameworks of your limiting beliefs. And these are the steps that your subconscious wants to walk through with you, but cannot without the initial acknowledgement that it is there, that you are feeling it, that it is not a preferred emotion for you to experience, but you understand that the facing of it and the acknowledgement of it then opens the door for your subconscious to begin the assistive process of helping you understand how to effectively manage the energy and also gain the experiences of overcoming the energy, so that the energy itself begins to, over time, with the repetition of this process, begins to have less and less of a foothold in your consciousness. For this is the definition of growth. This is the definition of expansion that so many have spoken of. And so let us talk about then some of the things that cause you to be triggered by. And so many of the energies that are harmonious with unconditional love is not really understood, because the initial conditionalism is still within you and is creating the energy block for you to resonate.